Revealed, the incredible love story of a billionaire and his maid that changed everything forever. Sarah's heart raced as she strode through the grand halls of Jack Donovan's mansion, her mop in hand and ambition in her heart. The polished marble floors reflected the opulence of the life she could only dream of, a life filled with certainty, security, and the laughter of her son, Tyler. As she worked, she often found herself gazing out the enormous windows that framed the estate, envisioning a better future for her little family. Just as she lifted her head, Jack appeared in the periphery, his silhouette both confident and isolated. They exchanged a fleeting glance, and in that moment, Sarah felt an undeniable spark, one that defied their vastly different worlds. Earning a living as a maid was hard. With each sweep of the broom, Sarah carried not just the weight of the dust but her dreams too, dreams of stability, of peace, of providing for her ailing mother and spirited Tyler. Every discreet nod of acknowledgement from Jack felt like an invitation to a world she never dared to explore. Jack, with his sharp suits and wealth, felt trapped behind walls of expectations, much like Sarah felt trapped by her circumstances. Both ensnared in their own battles, they found brief moments of connection, laughter shared over a spilled drink, smiles exchanged in silent understanding. A bond was gently forming, even amidst the chaos of their lives. As whispers of Sarah's efforts in economic justice spread through town, soon she captured media attention, garnering local respect. With the annual community gala approaching, she couldn't shake the feeling of impending change, both exhilarating and terrifying. And then there was Jack, who, after seeing Sarah stand up for her cause, offered his influence. It was a gesture meant to solidify their connection, but Sarah felt her heart race in panic. The suffocating fear of judgment from society loomed over her like a dark cloud. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the gala night arrived, the mood shifted from hopeful to hostile. Jack's good intentions were met with loud jeers and ugly assumptions that clawed at Sarah's dignity, making her feel just as small as she did when she first started as a maid. With every harsh word thrown her way, she felt the bond they had forged begin to fray. Home wasn't just a place, it was a feeling, and her heart ached as she realized she was jeopardizing everything she'd worked for. In their moment of deepest connection, they stood on opposite sides of the divide society had drawn. Love, once bright with possibility, felt like a painful weight that threatened the very fabric of their lives. Just as Sarah faltered under the weight of judgment, an astonishing truth about Jack's past rattled their fragile resolve. Would they bridge the divide or let society pull them apart? As the townsfolk rallied for Sarah's cause, her heart pounded with the knowledge that what lay ahead could either forge their union or shatter their dreams forever. The gala hall buzzed with tension. It felt almost alive, but the energy pulsed painfully, like a warning siren. Sarah's gaze bounced across the crowd, searching for Jack, hoping for his reassuring presence. But all she felt were the sharp stares of the guests, slicing through her confidence. Whispers surrounded her like a swirling storm, accusations of opportunism and absurdity clinging to her like a cloak she didn't want to wear. She clutched her cocktail tightly, the ice rattling as her hand trembled. A voice broke through her haze. "What are you doing here, maid?" A woman sneered, her wealth draped in designer fabrics that seemed to echo the prejudice in her tone. The laughter that followed felt like daggers piercing Sarah's heart. What had she done to deserve this? Was it her appearance? The nerves unfurled in her stomach, twisting like vines around her hope. She turned, scanning for Jack. When she finally spotted him at the edge of the crowd, he watched, his expression a mix of concern and regret. A lump formed in her throat as she remembered their earlier moments, fleeting touches seemed now as distant as the spark between them. Could they ever escape this web of societal expectations? Sarah. Jack's voice cut through the murmur, reaching her like a lifeline. He moved toward her with purpose, confident yet cautious, as if he were navigating terrain that was unfamiliar and fraught with danger. "Jack, please," she began, her voice barely a whisper. "This was a mistake." "No, it wasn't." He stepped closer, the aura of the billionaire surrounding him almost protective, though it felt like a tarnished shield. "I thought showing support for you would change things, but..." "But what?" "All it has done is put a target on my back." Tears pricked at the edges of her eyes, and she fought to hold them back. "The community I wanted to uplift now sees me as a joke. And your presence makes it worse." "Let them talk. They don't know you." Jack took a step nearer, desperation etched in his features. "You're stronger than this, stronger than they realize. We can face them together." And then, she remembered his past, the rumors swirling around like fog, the reason Jack kept so many people at arm's length. It made her retreat, remove the warmth from her heart. Did he even understand the risks of exposing himself to the same judgment she faced? Suddenly, another voice interrupted, this one cutting through the tension like a bolt of lightning. "What are you doing here, Donovan?" It was Mark, a local magnate whose disdain for Jack was an open secret. Trying to save the maid from herself, or just looking for a pet project? Gasps filled the space, and Sarah's heart sank lower. This was what she had feared, a confirmation of Jack's vulnerability mixed with the town's venom. This moment could destroy them, turning the fragile bond they dared to form into mere ashes. But was this the end? Or an opportunity to rise, defying the dark storm surrounding them? Sarah felt her heart race with a new kind of resolve. She wouldn't let this moment define her or Jack. "After everything," she breathed, her voice gaining strength, "I believe in us." Jack searched her gaze, and for a heartbeat, she saw the flicker of hope reflected back. But before they could solidify their unspoken pact, the crowd surged like a tsunami, threatening to engulf the small moments they had shared. "Are we just going to let them talk?" Sarah's heart raced, something inside urging her forward. The battle ahead would be challenging, but maybe their story wasn't over. With courage building, she could either retreat or take a stand. As the room tilted dangerously towards chaos, Sarah clutched Jack's hand, feeling the warmth of his support despite the surrounding chill. Would they face this together, or would society rip them apart? What was she willing to sacrifice for love? The doors of possibility yawned wide, and Sarah took a breath. But just as the crowd's murmur crescendoed, a figure burst through the doors, a twist neither Sarah nor Jack anticipated. What would this newcomer bring to the fragile love story that was unfolding? The crowd silenced as the figure stepped into the gala, the air heavy with curiosity. A tall man in an impeccable tuxedo, his jet-black hair swept back, moved through the throng with an uncanny confidence. He had an aura that drew glances, both envious and wary. It felt as if he was the storm that Sarah and Jack had feared, a force that could either shatter their fragile moment or maybe, just maybe, shield them from the harassment. "Alex." Jack's voice was sharp, almost a hiss. The surprise in his tone sliced through the thick tension like a knife. Sarah's heart raced in sync with the crowd's collective breath held in anticipation. Who was this Alex? And why did he have such an immediate effect on Jack? As Alex approached, a smile spread across his face, so warm yet laced with mischief. "Jack. It's been too long, old friend. I see you've taken a liking to the help," he said, glancing toward Sarah. The flicker of amusement in his eyes felt like a spotlight on her, burning bright and unforgiving. "Alex, this isn't the time," Jack warned, his voice low but simmering with barely contained anger. "What are you doing here?" "I was in town for business, and I thought I'd drop by," Alex replied nonchalantly, his gaze now fixed on Sarah. And clearly, the party needed livening up. "Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen?" The crowd's murmur resumed, ripples of gossip blending with the music, and Sarah felt the weight of their eyes shift back to her. Alex. Jack's voice rose, frustration seeping through. This isn't a joke. Who said it was? Alex shrugged, unfazed. I just hate to see you playing knight in shining armor. It's rather cliché, don't you think? The disdain in Alex's tone stung, and Sarah clenched Jack's hand, summoning her courage. I'm not a damsel, and even if I were, no one asked for your opinion, she shot back, surprising even herself with the conviction in her voice. Jack turned, a spark of admiration lighting up his features. But isn't that what you are? Alex shot back, his gaze piercing. What are you even doing here, Sarah? You think this is some fairy tale? The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. Sarah felt the heat rising in her cheeks, a mix of anger and embarrassment. Why did he have to taunt her? I'm here because I want to help the community. Because I care. Not for some fantasy by combining forces with him. Alex stepped closer, eyes narrowing slightly. You think this is real? Look around. They'll never accept you. What do you know about it? Jack's voice was thick with protectiveness. You've always played it safe, hiding behind your daddy's money. Touché, Alex replied smoothly, folding his arms. But it doesn't change the facts. Jack's expression darkened. And what facts are those? That this will blow up in your face, Alex said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. You're just dragging her down with you. Sarah's heart pounded as emotions clashed inside her: fear, anger, determination. She refused to back down. You think you know me? She exclaimed, stepping forward. You think I'm weak because I'm not wealthy? You don't get to define who I am. The murmurs surged like a wave around them again. Jack locked eyes with Sarah, understanding and support surging between them. His grip tightened on her hand, a silent promise that they would face this together. Suddenly, a chuckle broke through the tension. Bravo, Maid, Alex replied, unruffled. But you're still just one voice against a multitude. At that moment, something shifted inside Sarah. She saw Alex for what he truly was: another barrier, another voice of doubt. Then let us turn more voices into our allies, she declared, her heart racing. Together, we can change their minds. Together, we are stronger. As she positioned herself beside Jack, their hands intertwined, the crowd began whispering again, though this time, the tone had shifted. Could there be others ready to support them, to fight back against the tide? But just as hope began to flicker, Alex's voice sliced through again. Change their minds? Good luck. But remember, everything comes with a cost. Even love. Sarah's thoughts swirled. What did that mean? What kind of cost was he implying? As the tension in the room thickened again, she felt the urgency. Would their newfound resolve hold against not just societal scrutiny but against the very challenges love could bring? The thought lingered, heavy as a storm cloud, as they faced the unpredictable waters ahead. Would they weather the storm together, or would the waves pull them apart? The weight of Alex's words hung in the air, palpable like the tension in a tightly wound string ready to snap. Sarah felt the pulse of the crowd as they shifted uncomfortably, some leaning closer to catch every word. Jack stood firm beside her, his presence solid and reassuring. Don't listen to him, Jack said, his eyes fierce but steady. You know who you are. You're not just some maid. You're a fighter. You're here for a reason. His words flowed with warmth, cutting through the chill that Alex had tried to cast over the moment. But Alex chuckled, drawing the attention back to him. Oh, Jack, sweet Jack, he said, feigning pity. You've always had such a penchant for delusion. Look around. They'll never see her as anything more than what she appears to be. He gestured to the guests, many whispering behind their drinks. The laughter. The pointed looks. Sarah felt her cheeks burn. But as she stood there under the scrutinizing eyes, something ignited within her. I'm not ashamed of my past, she declared, her voice rising above the whispering crowd. Yes, I'm a maid. But I'm also someone who believes in making a difference. I believe people can change. With each word, the fire inside her surged, emboldening her further. Alex's expression morphed from amusement to annoyance. You seriously think you can just waltz into the elite circles and change hearts overnight? Dream on. The flicker of panic behind his bravado gave Sarah a sense of strength. Jack squeezed her hand again, urging her to continue. No one said it would be easy, Alex. But the difference begins with believing that it's possible. Maybe it won't happen today or tomorrow, but I won't give up. For a brief moment, the crowd stilled, contemplating her words. Then, a whisper broke out, a spark igniting quiet conversations. Hope danced in the air. Look at that, Alex sneered, crossing his arms. A noble speech. But you'll need more than words if you want to change anything around here. You're wrong, Sarah shot back, emboldened. All it takes is one voice to start the change. Instead of retreating, she took a small step forward, her resolve palpable. Even if that voice comes from the bottom? He shot back, his confident facade shaking just a bit. Yes, she said firmly, feeling the encouragement behind her. Even from the bottom. She felt the beginnings of solidarity. Glances exchanged among the crowd, some nodding as they absorbed her challenge. Alex's laughter echoed, tinged with disbelief. You really think they'll rally for you? You're a maid in a room full of power, he taunted. Or perhaps, Jack interjected, the power is being redefined. Maybe they'll rally for a maid who dares to stand up. The word struck a chord, murmurs grew louder, conversations buzzing throughout the crowd. Sarah could see some of the guests looking at her, eyes shimmering with newfound courage. That realization felt monumental. The air felt charged, as if the whole room was poised on the edge of something incredible. She could feel the collective heartbeat of possibility, a rhythm of change. Suddenly, Alex's smirk faded. He shot one last glance at them, his expression a mixture of disbelief and simmering anger. We'll see how long that lasts, he spat before turning on his heel and disappearing back into the crowd. A sense of relief washed over Sarah. It wasn't just his words that had faded, it was the weight of doubt he had cast over her. We can do this, she whispered to Jack, excitement igniting in her chest. But just as they turned to leave the thrumming energy of the gathering, Sarah had a fleeting thought. What kind of storm was Alex planning next? What lengths would he go to in order to protect his precious image? Are you ready for whatever comes next? Jack asked, scanning the room like a watchful guardian. I am, Sarah replied, a fierce determination settling in her heart. But I know we're not done with this fight. And as they stepped into the thick of conversation, she felt a growing certainty. They had allies now, more than they could have imagined. But how many of those voices would join them, and how far would they be willing to go? The night still lay ahead, full of potential and uncertainty. And amidst it all, Sarah could still feel the storm gathering, just out of sight. The energy in the room shifted, morphing into something alive as Sarah and Jack navigated through the crowd. In moments, they were met with curious glances and subtle nods, a growing acknowledgement of her words. It felt surreal, like stepping onto a stage that she never intended to be on, yet here she was, center spotlighted among the elite. Do you think they really get it? Sarah asked Jack, her voice a mix of hope and uncertainty as they moved past a group of elegantly dressed women, their eyes alight with interest. Jack smiled, encouraging and confident. Change isn't easy, but they're listening. That's a start. Just then, a woman stepped forward from the gathering, her face bright with recognition. It was Ms. Edwards, one of the quieter guests, her soft demeanor often overlooked amidst the more boisterous crowd. Sarah, she said, her voice almost a whisper, I've always admired how you handle everything with grace. You inspire me. Sarah felt her breath catch. Those simple words were like a lifeline thrown into a turbulent sea. "Thank you," she replied honestly, warmth flooding her chest. "It's not easy, but I believe if enough of us stand together, we can make a difference." Ms. Edwards nodded, her eyes shimmering. "You're right. We deserve to bring change into this world, even if we find ourselves outsiders in it." Sarah looked into Ms. Edwards' eyes, seeing a growing spark of defiance and determination. This was a woman who had quietly watched the world unfold, and now, she was ready to join the fight. As they continued to engage with more of the guests, one voice emerged stronger than the rest. It was Gregory, a debonair gentleman known for his charm and status. He held a glass of whiskey in one hand, keenly observant. "You've got guts, Maid, I'll give you that," he remarked, smirking. "But this isn't a fairy tale. It's a business." "Maybe it needs a little fairy tale," Sarah countered instinctively, her heart pounding. "What's wrong with hoping for something better?" Laughter erupted from some corners, those who sided with him. "Hope doesn't pay the bills, sweetheart," a man shouted, drawing chuckles from his friends. But another patron, a young woman with fierce green eyes, stepped forward. "And you think apathy will? At least she's trying. That's more than I can say for you lot." A ripple of surprise passed through the crowd. Sarah felt the tension shift, a thread of solidarity beginning to weave through the crowd. Jack looked at her, pride flickering in his gaze. "See? Your words are powerful," he said quietly. Still, the air crackled with uncertainty. Alex wasn't gone for long. He re-emerged, surveying the scene with a calculating gaze. His brow furrowed, and his lips twisted into a humorless smile as he approached. "What's this? A maid brigade?" He leaned in, his voice low, taunting. "Bulletproof hope, huh? Have you given this crowd enough delusion for one night?" The room swirled with mixed feelings, some laughed, others recoiled. "We're fighting for our voices," Sarah shouted back, heart racing. "We are more than what you pretend we are, and tonight, we'll show it." Jack clenched her hand tighter, grounding her. An electric hum filled the room, flowing with anticipation. This wasn't just about Sarah anymore, it was a collective awakening. She stood firm, eyes locked on Alex, her heart pounding with each beat of uncertainty and courage. "Step back, or prepare for the storm you've invited." The words slipped from her lips, holding the weight of a promise. The crowd fell silent, realization coursing through them like a wave. Questions hung heavy in the air, but one stood out: how would Alex respond? All Sarah knew was that the night was still young, and everything was yet to be revealed. She took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of change, excited yet wary. The storm was here, but would they stand and fight? As the tension swelled, she sensed the winds shifting again, this time with a stronger intent. What would become of them all as they braced for the revealing truth ahead? A heavy silence settled over the room as all eyes turned to Alex. He studied the crowd, his expression a blend of disdain and amusement. "And what exactly do you plan to do, Sarah? Inspire a change with your fairy tale?" His smirk deepened, taunting her further. "Nothing changes if we don't challenge the status quo." Sarah shot back, her voice steady despite the tremors of fear coursing through her. Jack squeezed her hand again, a silent promise of support. Then, abruptly, the atmosphere shifted, murmurs whispered around them. "Maybe she's right," a hesitant voice came from the back. It was a young man, visibly shaken but determined. "Maybe we've been waiting for things to change too long without doing anything ourselves." That single voice ignited embers of hope. Others chimed in, some stepping forward, sharing their own feelings of frustration and yearning for change. "We need to stand up," a woman declared, her voice stronger than Sarah expected. The crowd began to swell with energy, a momentum building like a flood tide. But Alex wasn't finished. He leaned closer to Sarah, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper, yet loud enough for those around to hear. You think this display will impress them? They all know your kind. You're just a maid playing dress-up. No one truly cares about what you have to say. His words cut deep, fueling a fire within Sarah. That's where you're wrong, Alex. Caring is what connects us. We're tired of pretending we don't matter. And tonight, we're showing everyone we do. The electricity of her conviction danced through the crowd. Faces hardened with resolve, eyes that once flickered with doubt now bright with a fierce determination. Jack beamed at her, and for a moment, Sarah felt invincible. This wasn't just her fight, it was a cause uniting individuals that felt unseen. Gregory, still clutching his whiskey, glanced around the room, his amusement fading into mild curiosity. Let us say for a moment we hear you out. What's your grand plan, Sarah? His tone shifted, half teasing and half genuine. She took a step forward, feeling the energy coalesce around her. We start by believing in our worth. Each of us contributes something valuable. Change begins here together. If we don't believe that, we'll remain sidelined forever. The applause that followed was timid at first, but it blossomed into a full-hearted cheer. Sarah turned to the crowd, her heart racing. Let us take this passion beyond tonight. Let us gather, share our stories, and create real change. Fists clenched, people nodded. This felt like a storm brewing, one that promised to shake the very foundations of their world. But in the midst of rising excitement, Sarah noticed Alex's expression transforming. No longer mocking, his brow fiercely knitted, he glared at her with a sense of urgency she hadn't seen before. It sent shivers down her spine. Be careful, Sarah, he said, a hint of something darker creeping into his voice. You have no idea who you're up against. This isn't just about you anymore. What did he mean? The chill of realization prickled at her skin. What was he planning? Was this really a fight for change, or was there more at stake than she realized? As Sarah confronted the steady fray of thoughts tumbling in her mind, a lingering apprehension gripped her. The night felt like a turning point, and she stood at the center, but the storm brewing around her might have deeper currents yet to unveil. The taste of change mingled with fear as Sarah considered the risks. Would they survive the wrath that often came with progress? What dark secrets could Alex unleash? Eyes sharpened, hearts raced, each moment weighed heavily. Change was hanging in the balance, a volatile dance, and Sarah was right in the middle of it. What would be revealed next? The crowd pulsed with a mix of excitement and trepidation, each face reflecting the internal struggle between hope and fear. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, drumming out a rhythm of determination. This was not just a speech, it was a call to arms, a possibility of liberation from the chains of silence. Our stories matter. She shouted, her voice rising above the clamor. All of us have fought battles unnoticed. We owe it to ourselves to rise up. The reactions were electric. People were nodding, leaning closer, pulling one another in. They were yearning for something real, something to grasp onto. Jack's warm hand in hers felt like an anchor in this sea of shifting emotions. Let us pave the way for those who come after us. We gather, we speak, and we act. Those words fell from her lips with a fervor she hardly recognized. But as she glanced at Alex, the urgency in his eyes made her heart sink a little deeper. What does he know that we don't? A murmur rippled through the audience, a collective breath held in anticipation. Just as quickly, Alex raised his hands to hush the crowd, a snake charmer in action. Before you get carried away, know this: what you're proposing is dangerous. You talk about bravery, but understand that the powerful don't lose their grip easily. His tone was calm, almost soothing, a sharp contrast to the storm brewing within Sarah. They will retaliate. People like you, people like me, it's not that simple. Maybe not, she said slowly, but change requires us to risk something: our comfort, our security. Are we willing to trade our fears for the possibility of a brighter future? There was a pause, an unspoken agreement hanging in the air. Eyes darted around the room, weighing the stakes. A soft voice piped up near the front, "What if we stand together? Isn't that what strength is about?" The atmosphere crackled, each individual felt a sense of belonging, of possibility. Sarah could see the fire igniting within them, pushing through the layers of fear that had held them down for too long. They were ready to confront their oppressors, or at least, speak their truths. But before Sarah could respond, a loud crash echoed through the room, silencing everyone. Alex's eyes widened in shock. The double doors had flung open, and in stormed a group of men dressed in dark suits. Their expressions were steely, businesslike, and menacing. "What is going on here?" one of them barked, his voice booming across the shocked silence. Sarah's heart raced. This wasn't just about change anymore, this was about survival. The sudden reality of their bravado clawed at her confidence, pushing her toward the edge of panic. "I think it's time you all went home," the man continued, scanning the room with an unwavering glare. Sarah swallowed hard. This was the moment she had prepared for, the moment she needed to own. "No," she said, her voice shaking but resolute. "We refuse to be silenced." A rush of whispers tore through the crowd, a mix of dread and defiance. All eyes turned back to her, searching for leadership. Could they really take this stand? Was it wise to push back when they hardly knew who they were confronting? "Sarah," Jack whispered urgently, "this is escalating fast. Do we live in fear?" Sarah countered, her voice firmer now. "Or do we fight for our place?" The weight of this situation loomed heavily over them. Would they be thrown back into the shadows, or would they stand firm against this new challenge? As tension hung like a thick fog, Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself for what might come next. What would the men in suits do? Would they respond with violence, or could this unexpected confrontation lead to something unforeseen? The men exchanged glances, their confidence unwavering, as if the courage radiating from Sarah didn't touch them at all. One of them stepped forward, a tall figure with chiseled features and piercing eyes. "You think this is just about your little gathering?" he sneered. "You are interrupting things far bigger than you can understand." His cold words sent a shiver down Sarah's spine, igniting fear but also fueling her resolve. "We understand more than you think," she replied, the defiance growing in her tone. "We're tired of being overlooked, tired of being silent. It's time for our voices to be heard." "You're brave," the man said, almost mockingly, "but bravery without wisdom is foolish." He gestured to his companions, who fanned out across the room, scanning the crowd with hawk-like eyes. "I suggest you leave now while you still can." The air felt suffocating as Sarah watched the men move, tension thickening with each step. Whispers rose, and the crowd shifted uneasily. A small part of Sarah wanted to retreat, to reset to a safer time, but the larger part, one built by years of watching others suffer in silence, screamed to keep pushing forward. "Are we really going to let them intimidate us?" she called out, her voice rising above the nervous murmurs. "Are we really going to turn back now?" Jack squeezed her hand tighter, his support clear as ever. Beside her, Alex stood silent, eyes darting between the men and the crowd. She could feel the collective heartbeat of the audience, a rapid thrum of fear layered with desperation. A woman in the front, an unassuming figure named Maria, suddenly stood tall. "We want to go back. We deserve to stand together." Her eyes glimmered with unshed tears but held a firm fire. The crowd erupted in scattered applause, and Sarah felt the energy begin to swell again. "Enough of this," the lead man snapped, his annoyance palpable. "You're making a mistake." "No," Sarah replied defiantly. "You're the one making a mistake if you think you can come here and threaten us. We know our worth. We are powerful if we stand united." With that, she spotted others beginning to stand up. One by one, they found their voice. Old friends, siblings, strangers, all united in this shared moment of courage. Cheers began to rise, drowning out the dark presence of the men in suits. But just as hope surged, the lead man's eyes narrowed maliciously. "You think strength lies in numbers?" He growled. "I'd watch your back if I were you." "Let them try," Sarah shot back, fire in her belly. But doubt crept in. Had she miscalculated? Could they truly face off against power so deeply entrenched? The lead man smirked, clearly amused. "Then prepare for the consequences." Without warning, he pulled a small device from his pocket and pointed it toward the ceiling. A flicker of lights dimmed before an overwhelming siren filled the hall, a sharp contrast to their rallying cries. Panic fluttered through the crowd. "We have to get out of here," someone screamed, eyes widening in fear at the sound of approaching sirens. "No," Sarah urged, her voice strained against the panic. "Don't break now. We can fight this." But would they stand together, or would the weight of their fear drag them back into silence? The sirens grew louder, so did the chaos. She could feel the tension building, threatening to explode. In that moment, her heart raced as she realized this was their truth, the chance to turn fear into action. But would they seize it, or let it slip away, extinguished like a flame in the wind? As silhouettes loomed closer and the sirens howled louder, Sarah knew they were at a crossroads. Would they fall apart, or would they find the courage to face what lay ahead, even if it meant dire consequences for standing up? A chilling thought gripped her. What if this was only the beginning? What if fighting back prompted something much darker? The sirens pierced through the air, slicing through the tension in a way that made Sarah's heart race. The overwhelming noise seemed to drown out the crushing weight of uncertainty as people around her began to shift and murmur. Could they really push back against this tide? She scanned the room, noting the fear on faces both familiar and new. "Stay strong," Sarah called out again, her voice shaking but resolute. "They want us to scatter, to panic. We stick together, we have the power." Jack's hold on her hand tightened, and she noticed Alex's stance shift, growing more determined. Behind her, Maria was rallying others, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We won't let fear control us. We can take a stand for what's right." The lead man watched their resurgence with a sweeping glance, his face twisting, turning from amusement to irritation. "You really think this is a game? Let us see how brave you are when real consequences come." His eyes narrowed as he activated the device again, and within seconds, the room was flooded with bright, strobe-like lights that made it hard to see. "Get down!" someone shouted, and the crowd instinctively crouched. Sarah could feel the energy shift, fear rapidly gave way to adrenaline as they banded together. "Listen up!" Sarah yelled, pushing through the din. "We have to move. It's on us to decide if we stay and fight or run. But if we run, we'll never have this chance again." Just as the room started to move toward the exit, the lead man took a step forward with a new sinister resolve. "Do you really think you can escape this? There are consequences to standing against the powerful, and I assure you, they won't be pretty. No more threats." Someone shouted from the back, their voice quaking but unwavering. "We aren't scared anymore." The crowd seemed to pulsate with a newfound strength. Sarah felt a rush of hope that surged through her like electricity. They could do this. They had to. We fight for each other. For every voice that has been silenced. We deserve to be heard. Just then, there was a loud crash from the entrance. The doors burst open, and a group of officials in uniform flooded into the hall, faces stoic but alert. They quickly assessed the tension in the room and the menacing group standing against the crowd. "Everyone stand down," one of them shouted, their voice booming. "This is an unlawful gathering. You need to disperse now." Fearing the situation could spiral, Sarah took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Please. We're not the enemy. We're here for each other." The lead man's shadow loomed behind her, his expression one of contempt. "You think this is about you? This is about power dynamics you can't even begin to understand. But if you want a fight, we'll give it to you." The tension hung in the air like a thick fog. As angry murmurs filled the room, Sarah could feel the stakes rising with each passing second. Would the law side with them or this relentless group? Would they truly stand united in the face of danger, or would it all crumble again? Just then, a young boy in the front of the crowd stepped forward. "My mom told me that we should always stand up for what's right. If we stop talking, nothing will change." The words rang like a bell, reverberating through the crowd. Was it really that simple? Could a single voice change the course of everything? In that moment, with the potential for confrontation looming over them, Sarah realized it was no longer just about her. It was about every life they'd affected. Every person who had faced injustice alone. A shiver of conviction coursed through her. As the sirens continued to wail and shadows danced on the walls, Sarah took a deep breath, ready to speak again. But would her words ignite a spark of hope or plunge them deeper into chaos? The answer teetered on the brink. What would happen next as they faced this unexpected crossroads? The crowd buzzed with tension, the urgency palpable as faces shifted between fear and determination. Sarah felt the weight of every gaze pressing on her, a silent plea for courage. She understood now that they stood at a precipice not just for themselves but for everyone who had ever felt voiceless and powerless. The boy's brave words echoed in her mind, urging her to step forward. "Listen!" Sarah shouted, her voice rising above the din. "We can't let their threats drown our hopes. This moment matters. We matter." Jack's hand tightened around hers, and she felt a flicker of strength from his unwavering support. Seeing the officials in uniform, she knew it wasn't time to back down. This was their chance to stand for change. "Our fight isn't just for today," she continued, her heart racing. "It's for our children, for our communities. We deserve dignity, respect, and a future where no one has to hide their struggles. If we don't stand together now, we risk everything, losing our chance forever." A murmur swept through the crowd, their faces lighting up with a shared spark of hope. Sarah locked eyes with Maria, who nodded resolutely, rallying more voices around her. "We're not asking for permission anymore," Maria shouted. "We don't need their approval to exist." The lead man scowled, clearly rattled by the shift in energy. He stepped forward, a dangerous glint in his eyes. "You think you can sway public opinion overnight? This will backfire." But he was interrupted as the youngest among them, the same boy who had spoken before, shouted, "We'll keep talking. You may be powerful, but together, we are stronger." People began to echo the sentiment, their voices rising in agreement. "Together," they cried. "Stronger together." The officials exchanged cautious glances, sensing the tides turning. One stepped forward, their demeanor softening. "Look, we aren't here to stifle voices. We're here to maintain order. But let us hear what you have to say." The lead man scoffed but remained silent, clearly vexed by the change in atmosphere. "Thank you," Sarah said, her eyes gleaming with gratitude. "What we seek is simple. We want a chance to be heard. We want to create a community where everyone has a say. We want to work with you, not against you." The crowd erupted with cheers, the fear dissipating as a collective resolve filled the air. Sarah could feel that electricity coursing through them, a shared determination that rumbled deep inside. This was their moment. As if to punctuate the sentiment, Jack stepped forward beside her and raised his voice above the chanting. "We've learned the hard way what happens when we stay silent. Together, we can build a better future, turning all this chaos into something transformative." For every heavy step the men in suits took, the crowd surged with fervor. The energy crackled around them, transforming fear into fortitude. Even the police officers began to sway, nodding in agreement as they sensed the shift in conviction. But just when it seemed they had won the moment, the lead man snapped back into action, his features darkening with fury. "The law isn't forgiving, and neither will we. You think this is going to end well? Let us make it end well together, then." Another voice called out from the crowd, rallying others to join in. Conversation sparked, and people stepped forward to share their experiences, to amplify their stories. As the atmosphere pulsed with passion, Sarah took in the sight of people united around her, standing shoulder to shoulder against the storm. Together, they could shatter the chains that had held them captive for so long. Life doesn't come with a manual. She shouted, her spirit igniting the crowd. It comes with choices. If we want change, we've got to at least try. The lead man sneered, but the urgency began to wane in his demeanor. Perhaps he didn't expect this uprising. In that moment, Sarah's heart soared with an indescribable warmth, the realization that they might actually be on the cusp of something beautiful. Here was a chance to reshape their world, not just for themselves but for generations to come. As they surged forward, ready to confront the uncertain future ahead, Sarah caught Jack's eye again. Pride radiated from him, but fear swirled behind it. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice tender but firm. "Always," he replied softly, a kindling of trust igniting between them. And just like that, they took a collective step toward action, a step that could either lead to liberation or disaster, but one they were ready to face, hand in hand. And together, they would write the next chapter of their extraordinary story. As the sirens wailed, and whispers turned into cheers, Sarah felt the power of a united voice, a voice capable of rewriting the narrative. This was their transformation, and each heart joined together would tell the world they were done with silence. With a heart full of courage, she faced the impending storm, ready to stand tall. Don't wait another second. Subscribe immediately to the channel because you need to be part of the next exclusive story. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and support this fight for change. Comment your reactions below. What did this ending mean to you? And share this video with at least 5 friends who also need to see the strength of standing together. This is the moment to show your support. Let us keep this movement alive.